Okay, so I wrote actually a research paper on abortions last year for the AP capstone program.
Right.
And one thing that I found in my research, because I remember seeing that, I don't know if this was actually post the research or before it, but I remember seeing that. And one thing with that testimony that I think kind of got lost in translation is that surgical abortions, I think, which D&E are a subset of, do make up 30% of abortions. That is true. That specific type of a surgical abortion, though, is not the majority. It's not even close to the majority of abortions. Most abortions happen way before that would be how it would have to happen. The majority of abortions are medical, which is basically taking super strong plan B.
Right.
And then most surgical abortions are still not to the point where there's actually a fetus. And I think that's one thing, because I saw the testimony, it was horrifying. It was very, very upsetting. But I think that's one of those things where, like, yes, that's horrifying, and I really dislike, I'm against that form of abortion 100%. But you can say, we're not doing that type of abortion, which is much later term, want to outlaw that. Honestly, I can understand the reasoning, but that's not the majority of abortions. That's one thing that kind of irks me about the pro-life stances. A lot of the times, like, you can use things like that are deeply upsetting, but they're not even close to the majority of cases. I think, if I recall, that specific kind of abortion, while it is considered surgical, which is why you can say 30%, is maybe, like, I don't think it's even 5% of all abortions. I think it's even lower than that, because that type of abortion would have to happen much later in the term, and most abortions don't happen beyond the first term to begin with.
So D&Es are, just for reference, second term abortion. They're not earlier. They do make up, I think, roughly 11 to 15% of, let me see, because I'm like looking at my previous research, because you're the writer here. I don't write nearly as much, but for a previous group I used to write for, I kind of talked about D&E abortions. It says that they can also occur for the first trimester. Guttmacher, I'm pronouncing it like a German.org, estimates that D&E accounts for roughly 95% of the first trimester procedures. The safety of the D&E method was also documented.
Okay, what is specifically, though, D&E? What is specific? What does that encompass?
It encompasses, you dilate the cervix, and then it is surgical.
Okay.
After the first it says after the first trimester, but I think it can also occur during the late first trimester. It is a method of abortion as well as a common procedure to after miscarriage to remove pregnancy tissue. Okay,
so just to clarify, and not to get like too graphic for our listeners, I know now specifically what you're talking about. I didn't know that was the name for the entire group. Most surgical abortions do involve that. We're so off topic, but do involve that, the dilation of the cervix. Most of them do not require dismembering a fetus.
Right.
Because most of the time, those procedures, this is the worst analogy I will ever use. I'm so sorry to our listeners. It's a vacuum cleaner. It's basically exactly.
Let's clarify that it's not actually a vacuum cleaner. And if there are any people listening who think they're going to shove a vacuum cleaner up there, I don't even know if I can say these words. If they're going to shove a vacuum cleaner blank, please don't do that. Don't do that. That's a dumb idea, and don't.
I also feel the need to clarify for our listeners.
Just like a thump and then a, and it's that's probably not good. Don't do that.
To clarify for our listeners.
Just to clarify.
I'm not a psychopath. I just want to laugh when we talk about this type of abortion. Yes, I can call that. And that is, I dislike that intensely. I am unless it's like, okay, there's no way that either the mother or the baby will survive if she carries to term. other than in that scenario, I am completely against that form of abortion. However, that specific type of a D&E abortion is not the majority of D&E abortions, because the ones that happen the first term don't involve that. It's a very weird procedure to explain, and I don't want to try to explain it because I don't want to traumatize our listeners.
Right.
But it does not involve that. It does involve dilating the cervix. It does not involve actually having to remove the fetus piece by piece. That is at a much later term. Usually it's just dilating the cervix to remove the
fetus is not
pregnancy tissue.
You don't have to do it as much. We should clarify as well that you mentioned earlier, people will use testimonials like that in cases like that, and while they're not the majority, people will use that in order to create emotion in their argument. Emotion is a huge part of an argument. People will commonly say, people on the left, at least in America, people on the left will use kind of emotion as a big tool in their arguments, and people that are more right will use more reasoning and logic, kind of something like Ben Shapiro here. Facts don't care about your feelings or whatever, but
I found myself unfortunately agreeing with Ben Shapiro this morning, and it was like something I didn't know was even possible.
Right. And
not to get like totally off topic.
Oh, we're already off topic. We were going to talk about something completely different, and it's just melded into abortion. And actually, I think that this is an interesting topic, because abortion is obviously something. I think it's kind of an evergreen topic. For those of you who don't know what an evergreen is, evergreen is something that's always in the sphere of what it is. So an evergreen topic in politics is something that's always in the realm of politics, at least for its area. Abortion and gun control are kind of seen as the two most evergreen topics in American politics. I think most people can agree. There's other topics like taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
But abortion has been a long-standing discussion. And now I think it's finally not as much as gun control, or I think gun control is starting to really leave the debate, and more people are becoming pro-gun every day. Especially with what's happened since COVID and the lockdowns happened. You have George Floyd, and you have other cases where people are saying, okay, the government is trying to kill people and is targeting people. And it's harder and harder every day to say the government is targeting people, and then you turn around and say we need to give our guns to the government. I don't think those are very compatible statements, I don't know. It's I'm seeing a lot of people who are previously very anti-gun now becoming pro-gun. I definitely think that if you are going to have an opinion, at least in guns, you should be familiar with the gun as well.
Yeah.
Oh God, your video is frozen.
I think.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
There we go. We're good. You're frozen there for like.
Okay, fabulous.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, especially with gun control. Totally switching now. I am definitely not in the camp of no guns. No one should have guns. Not because I like guns, not because I ever want to have a gun in my house, but because I think the same argument of people are going to find a way to get an abortion, whether or not it's legal, applies to guns. People are going to find a way to get a gun. So I think, like, I would much rather have the government know who has a gun. I would much rather have these guns be licensed and know who has them than have people be getting guns where there's no way to track them. I think the bigger issue is like these ghost gun kits. That's a huge problem that should not be legal.
Right. I
think the bigger issue is like common sense gun control, because I say gun violence is a huge epidemic in this country. We had multiple mass shootings a day during March. I think, but again, I don't think that you can't take away all the guns, as much as personally I don't like guns. I don't think there's any reason for anyone to have a gun. If no one has a gun, you don't need a gun to protect yourself from someone else with a gun. But because there's always going to be a way to get them, I would much rather have it be legal and have it be in a way where we know who has guns, we know who the guns belong to, rather than let's make it so difficult that people go to less than legal means where we don't know who has a gun, where people are using ghost gun kits, which is a horrifying concept to think about. um, because there's no way you can completely eliminate people from getting their hands on these things. You can't
Right.
stop people from getting drugs, you can't stop people from getting abortions. People are going to find a way to do what they want to do. The best we can do is make it safe for them and everyone else, is my general belief.
So let's talk about how the US is confronting the coup in Myanmar. Last week, President Biden announced he will sanction military leaders in Myanmar who directed the coup that detained its elected leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and others. Biden also said Myanmar's military must relinquish the power it seized and release the coup's prisoners. The National League for Democracy, or NLD, won Myanmar's democratic election in a landslide last fall, but generals behind the coup have claimed this election is fraudulent. The sanctions were welcomed by senators on both sides of the aisle, releasing a joint statement in support of the president's actions. What are some additional actions you believe that the US government could take in this situation? Make sure to comment down below, like this post, follow our page, and check the link in our bio for our other social media accounts.